So we have this really popular club in the United States, and it's called the Student Loan Club. I know a few million of you are new to the club. Welcome. We have about 44 million members in the country, and collectively we owe about $1.5 trillion. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but let's put that into perspective. 1 million seconds is 11 days. 1 trillion seconds? 11 million days. I know so many people that don't know how student loans work, and some of those people have student loans. So if you don't have student loans already, let's show exactly what you're getting into. And if you already have student loans, let's talk about how you can minimize those. So today we're going to talk about what student loans are, how they work, the alternative options that you have to student loans, and once you have them, how do you get rid of them? So student loans are just like any other loan, your car loan, your home loan, student loan. So student loans, essentially, an organization gives you a bunch of money, and you promise to pay that money back in a certain time period. But the kicker is, you have to pay that money back with interest, because this organization sees you as an investment. They have money and you don't, and you need money, so you borrow it, but it's not free money. You have to pay it back, and you have to pay it back with interest. And that interest for student loans is typically going to range between 4 and 7%. So everything that you spend in 4 to 5, maybe 6 to 10 years, you're paying back with 4 to 7% in interest. And if you don't know anything about me or this channel, we hate interest. Paying interest is essentially like, let me show you what paying interest is like. This is your money that you're paying in student loans. And this is a trash can. That's paying interest. So to make sure that we're paying the least amount of interest possible, we're going to make sure that we get a federal loan, not a private loan. So the first thing that we should be doing is looking at federal loan options, not private loan options. Now, if the federal government won't give you enough to cover your tuition, then yeah, we should probably look at private options, but that's your last resort. You're gonna get charged 7% interest in private loans compared to 4.5%. And with federal loans, you're gonna have a lot more flexibility. So with federal loans compared to private loans, you're gonna have more financing options. So it might be income-based. So if you're making more income after you graduate, you'll pay a higher rate. And God forbid the Senate actually passes a loan forgiveness plan, but if you have a private loan, those loans won't be forgiven. So if they ever pass a loan forgiveness plan, you want a federal loan, not a private loan. And the last thing with federal loans that you don't get with private loans is the difference between a subsidized student loan and an unsubsidized student loan. So the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized is subsidized loans, you don't start accruing interest until after your grace period. So your grace period is typically 6 months after you graduate, where they don't make you pay any money. So you don't actually start accumulating interest until that point. So for 4.5 years, you don't actually have any interest building up. Whereas unsubsidized loans, as soon as that money gets to your bank account, you're paying interest. So 4.5 years of interest is a lot of money. And subsidized versus unsubsidized, it really depends on your FAFSA. It's not really something that you can choose, but if you have any questions, ask your loan people what your options are. So let's do an actual example of your potential student loans over how many ever years. So let's use Missouri State University as an example, and let's assume that we can't pay any of our costs going into university. So everything that the university costs is what we're taking out in student loans, which hopefully isn't your situation, but this is kind of worst case scenario. So over here at the typical basic costs, that's literally what it is, the basic cost. The university is going to try to wring you for as much money as they can get out of you in your 4 to 5 years here. So treat this as the bare minimum. So let's assume that we're a Missouri resident and we're taking an average course load for fall and spring. That brings us up to $18,000 per year. Now let's assume that we're in school for 4 years, which is probably going to be more like 5, but that's $72,000 just in your basic costs. But wait, they make you stay on campus your freshman year, so let's head on over to the housing rates. University housing rates, let's just do the cheapest option, good old Freddie Hall. So we're gonna add $6,000 to that $7,200 and we're up to $78,000. Well, you have to feed yourself freshman year, and you have to have a meal plan to make that possible. And the unlimited meals per week is only $250 more than the 10 meals per week, so obviously we're going to add $2,500 to that. That brings us up to a grand total of $80,500. So let's head on over to our student loan calculator, and $80,500 over 4 years is going to be $1,500 every single month for 5 straight years. And the kicker is you're paying nearly $10,000 in interest over those 5 years. Well, I don't know about you, but $1,500 per month is a little bit crazy for my situation. So let's go ahead and make that a 10-year plan. That gets significantly better at $834 per month, but wait. The total interest paid is almost $20,000. We just doubled our interest rate. And still, $834 every single month for 10 years is a lot of money. That's more than my total living expenses. So let's do worst case scenario and assume you can't get it paid off until that 15-year mark. That's $615 per month, which is significantly better, but wait, the total interest paid is $30,000. That's almost half of your total loan amount, the total principal that you have. And that's assuming we have a 4.5 really good federal loan interest rate. So you could be paying more than this, and that is crazy. So now that we know that student loans are just so expensive, let's talk about alternatives to student loans before you actually get them. There's 3 alternatives, and those are work-study, grants, and scholarships. Work-study, the federal government actually pays you to work at your university, and the university loves that because it's free money. If I have $30,000 to pay my students this year, and you're a work-study student, you don't come out of my $30,000. That's essentially, as far as I'm concerned, for my functional area, free money. And we love that. There's actually a lot of places on campus that you can't work at unless you're work-study, because that department just doesn't have the money to pay non-work-study students. So talk to your university and figure out what work-study options you have available to you and what qualifications you need to meet. Next up is grants and scholarships. I kind of lump them together because you apply for them. It's based on through your university, through some random person that wants to do some good, and all you have to do is just meet the qualifications, which are essentially maintain a certain GPA and maintain a certain credit hour. As long as you're doing good in school, here's some free money. So yes, A, we want free money, but B, we also want to do good in school. So grants and scholarships are amazing options. Student loans can feel like free money when $10,000 just hits your bank account, but you have to pay that back with interest, whereas scholarships and grants are literally free money. Some random person or the university is going to pay you to go to this university and do well. That we should want to do that anyway, right? So let's take their free money just for doing that. And there are so many scholarships and grants that just don't have a lot of competition because people aren't willing to apply for them. Spend an entire month researching grants and scholarships and when you need to apply for them, and spend that whole month just applying for them. Your time just applying for grants and scholarships is well worth the free money that you get from them. So just figure out all of your options. And before you take out student loans, you need to make sure that you are taking out exactly what you need and no more. If $10,000 hits your bank account and you only need $5,000, that's $5,000 free dollars, right? So what can we do with $5,000 free dollars? Go to Hawaii, go to Vegas. We like spending free money, right? But student loans aren't free money. Do I need to grab the trash can again? Student loans. So if you have $5,000 just sitting in your bank account, and you might perceive that as free money, it's not free money. Don't treat it like that. So only take out what you need, especially if you only have unsubsidized loans. Because if you take out $10,000 and you really need $5,000, that's interest that you're paying on $5,000 that you don't actually need. That's a lot of money that you don't actually want to spend. Okay, what you've actually been waiting for, how to pay off student loans. It's inevitable that a lot of us get into student loan debt and we need to know how to pay it off. Tip 1 to paying off your student loan debt is to treat your monthly payment as the minimum payment. You can pay more than your monthly payment. It doesn't have to be a 10-year plan that you've determined with your loan servicer. It can be anything you want. If you can pay it off early, you need to pay it off early, which leads us to tip 2. The only way to make sure that you have more than the minimum payment is to have extra money. And how do you have extra money? Well, you have to budget every single month down to the penny. Without a budget, you have no clue what the frivolous money you're spending is. If you go to lunch every single day at work, and there's like 20 work days in the month, and you spend at least $10 every time you go to lunch, that's $200 just in lunch. I spend less than $200 a month on everything that I eat, and I eat like 3,000 calories to achieve my fitness goals. That's a lot of money. So you have no clue what money you're spending or how you can get extra money unless you budget and actually track your money. So you need to start doing that if you aren't already. And tip number 3 is to not fall into lifestyle creep. You just graduated. You're used to living like a student. When you say living like a student, there's a certain standard of living that we associate with students. We want to maintain that for as long as we can. All of a sudden, you're gonna get a job making like $40,000 a year, and that's like $40,000 a year more than you're used to making, so that's gonna be a lot of money to you, right? So you're gonna buy a fancy car, you're gonna live in a fancy house, and you don't need those things. Just spend the first 5 years after school living like a college student. I can guarantee if you start increasing your lifestyle and you're like, oh wait, I gotta pay these student loans, let's take it back, it's gonna feel terrible to go back to a beater car and a terrible apartment, right? So once that creep comes up, it doesn't go down. So hold that off for as long as you can. I've spent the past like 4 years post-graduation spending as little money as possible. My first 3 years, I lived with a roommate in a run-down house, right? So we paid hardly anything in monthly rent. Get your expenses as low as you can and pay these loans off as fast as you can. You don't want to be paying these for the rest of your life, and you really don't want to be paying as much money as you are in interest. Interest is our worst enemy, so the faster we pay these off, the less we pay in interest. I know student loans or any type of loan can seem really daunting. That's money you're paying for upwards of 20 years. But with small steps every single day, you can reduce that drastically. So start today. Today is better than tomorrow, which is better than the next day. If you enjoy personal, professional, or financial development, hit that subscribe button. I'm putting out 2 to 3 videos every single week geared towards giving you the tools to succeed in and after college. Proud of you, I love you, and I'll see you next time.